What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Movie Emporium's TV review of the final episode of The Stand, Episode 9, The Circle Closes. Now, before we begin, if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome, hit that like button, as well as commenting below any video that you watch, including this one. Guys and gals and guys, the mini-series or limited series that is The Stand has finally ended. 9 episodes later, and wow, what a disappointment. What a true, terrible adaptation of a very popular book. Now, it wasn't all bad. There's some points in this, whatever you want to call this, that was okay. That could have been just portions of the last episode. It's been a very interesting journey to watch this series, which has been a very underdeveloped, underrepresented type of story that had no kind of justification for any point of its story at all, that just underwhelmed at every single step. Even the episodes that were 8 out of 10 episodes, there was something always missing, and it basically boils down to characters were written poorly. The actors that were given these roles were not the right roles for these characters, and I don't want to hate on Josh Boone, but after what we saw with the New Mutants, this was not something he should have done. I think because he was given most of the creative oversight of this miniseries, I think it just made it worse. I really do. I think the fact that they took the book and kind of chopped it up and kind of went here, we're going to go and use flashback stuff here, and then we're going to transfer stuff here. It didn't work at all. It's such a misfire of a limited series. It's almost in that range of like the Langoliers or the Tommyknockers, where it has so much potential, has such a great cast, but it's just so poorly handled. It really was. And then on top of that, you add in the last episode, which I'll talk about in a second, and you have Stephen King's one of the greatest writers of all time. He really is, but we all know he can't end a story. And we've seen it. I love the Dark Tower ending, but a lot of people will agree that it has a lot of issues. The Stand's ending is the same way. It's the same way. A lot of his books have these issues where he has such great setups and middle acts. When he gets to trying to close out the story, it feels like he rambles on quite a bit. And you'll see what I'm talking about when we get to this, talk about the circle closes. But the fact that they let him write this episode is not the problem. It's the fact that it's the last episode and they've added new material that completely undermines the whole Stand proper in its own right. It just completely just throws it out the window and goes, hey, you know what we could do? We could have this really cool ending, and it could almost be like a setup for Stephen King writing The Stand Part 2. And I'm like, oh, what are you doing? You're not only taking a property that is beloved and already kind of thrown it under the bus and kind of run over it several times, but you're just going to completely throw the nail in the coffin and just throw it out in the lake and hopefully it dies a sudden death. And such a shame. It really is. I'm so baffled by this whole entire series. Baffled by the decisions made. I'm just baffled by everything. And I've had many comments through the 8 episodes that I've already talked about who agree with me. Some people don't, which is fine. It's part of, liking TV and movies and stuff like that. But for the last time, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in with me on this journey of The Stand. But let's get into this episode. So this episode is in essence an epilogue or coda, as Stephen King likes to write in a lot of his books. And if you're not 100% sure what that means, it's basically adding a whole kind of end story to the story. The story of The Stand is done. Randall Flagg is gone, or as he should be. And we're going to continue with some characters and kind of close out the idea of The Stand itself, or close out the story and give us a little more information. This episode reminded me a lot of Lord of the Rings in a lot of ways, not in the... I guess the journey makes a lot of sense, but it reminds me of the Lord of the Rings because there's a whole segment at the very end, which Peter Jackson wisely took out of it for a reason, but it's the whole burning of the Shire or the attack of the Shire, which the hobbits have to go and protect. it really kind of oversteps its bounds in a lot of respects, and it just kind of completely undermines the whole idea of the Lord of the Rings. The people had dropped the ring in Mount Doom. Sauron is dead. Let it breathe. Let Frodo and Gandalf go to the great heavens. Just let it go. But they have to add in the whole 150 page segment at the end, and it was something that can almost kind of completely ruin the whole idea of what the Lord of the Rings was. And it's happening here because the stand ends with the baby being born, having some issues with the whole captain trips, and them in Boulder. There might be a little bit more stuff after that, but in essence, after the nuke, after Stu finds Aunt Franny, it kind of just ends. That's it. It ends. It's done. And what we have here is Franny and Stu going to Maine, which you could have that as kind of a small segment at the end of the last episode. Just have them go, let's go to Maine, see what happens. And, they go there and they look around and they wonder, they ponder about the future, stuff like that. And it'd been fine. I had no problem with that. Have a small 10-minute segment. Add 10 minutes to the last hour or the last episode. You're done. Good. End of the stand. But instead, we have a 50-minute episode where, in essence, they travel across the country because they want to go back to Maine to see the coast, which is what Franny does, which is fine. And they end up at this home of this, whatever, dead people's home or whatever. And there's this whole episode about Franny taking her own stand. And, Franny doesn't need the stand. She has a baby. That's her stand. She was able to give birth to a baby that survived Captain Trips. And to have her have this whole segment where she is tempted by Randall Flagg, who we see a segment where she is, we see the devastation of New Vegas, and we see the little pin that he has. He has dead eyes and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay. So whatever. And so he goes into a store to, get stuff for the baby, and she finds a well and she falls down the well and really hurts herself, and she is tempted by Flagg saying if he kisses her she will be able to survive, and she doesn't kiss him, and she ends up in Hemingford Holmes or wherever the Whoopi Goldberg character, Mother Abigail, lived at some point. And Mother Abigail talks about, once again they brought Whoopi Goldberg back, whatever, but they talk about her surviving her own stand. It was more just temptation. That's all it is. That's all Randall Flagg was doing. Why Randall Flagg is even in this episode, why this episode is even happening, I have no idea. But Stephen King needs this whole new segment of a book that he already has a director's edit of. But and then Stu blows a tire on his truck as Annie's down the well dying, and Stu, it's very tense moments and stuff like that, and blah, 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 blah. And just nothing really matters at this point because the episode has clearly decided that it's going to completely keep ruining the whole entire idea of the stand itself. And like I said, there's also a thing where there's this young black girl, which I'm assuming is God or Mother Abigail or something like that, who's living in the cornfield. It's never fully explained what or who she is, but as Stu comes back, she's taking care of the baby. I'd be really confused too, who is this person taking care of my baby? She seems to know how to operate a truck, so she helps Stu get down the well and bring up, Franny and stuff like that. And, this young girl is able to heal Franny. It becomes all mysticism and stuff like that, and blah, 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 whatever. And then they travel to Maine, and Franny has her revelation or whatever. She basically says about, there's always going to be a good and evil, and there's always going to be problems and stuff like that, and we always have to stand against them, and it's really cheesy. And even the young girl that helps her says stand. I'm like, oh god, okay. So it just leads to a 40-minute kind of Franny trapped in a well, and Stu ends up coming up to help her save her. And I did like that the walkie has the number 19 on it because they're on channel 19, which is a running number throughout the entire Stephen King lore. So I had to throw that out there because I thought that was kind of cool. But we get to the very end of the episode, the very end of the series, and basically we see the indigenous tribe that we saw in the kind of vision or dream or whatever you want to call it that Franny and Flagg have, which I thought it was kind of funny because Flagg is either wearing no shirt or just completely naked, which would be a lot of fun for a lot of women because, it's Alexander Skarsgård. But Alexander Skarsgård's Randall Flagg or Richard Faraday, I think Richard Faraday pops up and he's naked and he's walking up to the tribe, and the main tribe leader an arrow at Randall Flagg, and Randall Flagg catches the arrow and basically uses his magic or mysticism to basically blow the head up of the chief, the warrior chief. And also he starts floating as he has done through the entire series, and he's like, praise me, or I'm your god, or something like that, and they're all like bowing to him, and that's the end of the episode. That's it. That's the whole entire episode. That is the conclusion to what is the mediocre The Stand. It really is. Now, before you say, oh, this stuff wasn't in, or this stuff was in the book, it wasn't 40 to 60 minute expanded version of this. Yes, they go to Maine. Yes, Randall Flagg wakes up on a beach, but it didn't need to happen. They could have cut all this out. I had 10 minutes of Frannie and Stu going to Maine to raise a settlement for a new group of people and stuff like that. But after the 8th episode, after everything that had happened, it felt complete. And this is the problem with Stephen King writing his own stuff that has proven with like the miniseries of the Shining. He is very, I don't know if he worries that his material is not good enough, that he has to completely he's like George Lucas, he has to completely keep changing everything. But when you have a whole segment with Frannie falling down the well, I mean, she just had a baby. She's going through this apocalypse. Just let them have their moment. Let them go through another Stand moment. It undermines the whole idea of the Stand itself. It always has. And it completely it falls by the wayside. It just fails everything that makes the Stand so great. And I know I don't keep looking at the camera, but I feel like this is something that makes it feel so hollow, I guess you could say. The story that Josh Boone and Benjamin Cavell, who wrote Justified, by the way, the TV series, they have made something so hollow. I can't say that they don't care and they didn't try in the series, because there's hundreds and hundreds of people working on this project, but it feels like there's something that they just don't get about the series. It feels like there's something they don't understand. It's like the Dark Tower book that got turned into a movie with Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba. There's something that these directors who are given their blessings from Stephen King and these studios don't understand about what makes this material so great. And when you throw in something like this at the very end of this story that's already undermining its whole idea of what it is, I feel like there's something completely just off-putting about it. It really is. Like I said, Josh Boone is a talented director. Fault in Our Stars is actually a pretty decent movie. Benjamin Cavell, like I said, Justified, one of the greatest TV shows of all time. These actors are actually quite good at what they do. Odessa Young as Frannie is completely miscast, and same thing with Harold Lauder. I guess Owen King's fine as Harold Lauder, but these people have such great talent, but and I feel like this is just, there's just something truly sad about watching something like this, about going week by week. I honestly wanted to even give up on watching these, but I made a commitment to do reviews and watch them, and I'm a huge fan of The Stand. So I made a decision to watch all of them, and I just feel like I've wasted my time. I feel like I wasted my energy. I did talk to people who love this series, and that's perfectly all right. I question why they like the series, but I think I'm just I think I'm just invested too much in the book itself. Something I know I haven't read in a while, which I need to go back and read. But I think I think something like The Dark Tower or The Lord of the Rings, you get invested with it so much that when you see the property being treated that, like, especially like the this or the Dark Tower treated the way it is, it's a problem. It really is. So, but like I said, you can definitely tell this ending is very similar to something, like I said, the burning of the Shire segments. I don't know, I already talked about that, but Stephen King was very much inspired by Lord of the Rings in this book, with the whole idea of people going up against the evil completely just destroying the land. The whole idea of, Axis versus allies, and evil versus good, and so on and so forth. So it is a shame. Like I said, it's a complete misfire of a series. This episode I'm giving like a 3 out of 10. It's the worst episode in the series, just because it completely undermines anything that even came before it, which was already undermining the whole entire series. But yeah, it's not good. This episode's not good. It shows the tendencies of the worst parts of what the series had problems with. Overall, the series itself, I'm just taking a stab here. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10 because there were a couple episodes that were, pretty decent. I had a lot of fun and enjoyed it, especially the last episode. I actually kind of enjoyed, but like I said, after everything that had come before it, it completely just kind of doesn't have any meaning anymore. So I think like a 6 out of 10 is generous. I really do. I think that's giving it a lot more credit than it really should be given. But I have a lot of issues with the series, but there were some things that were fun, but there were just mostly bad things. So, but that'll do it. That'll be my official end to my review of the Stand series itself. Thank God it's over. It's a relief. I can go find something new to watch. I don't have to get up and have to deal with this underwhelming show anymore. But anyways, that's it. That's my take on the Stand series, as well as episode 9, The Circle Closes. Let me know in the comments below what your official feeling of the series is. Do you have a particular grade out of 10 that you would give the series? If you did not like it, was there something that you liked about it? If you really liked it, was there something you didn't like about it? But, kind of let me know in the comments. But otherwise, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for going on this journey with me and putting up with this series if you hate it as much as I did. But anyways, if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you liked the video, awesome. Hit that like button, and we'll see you guys on a hopefully better series. Peace out.